for everybody. Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority to order, and I don't have any items from the chairman. I'm the vice chairman sitting in for the chairman who is sick today, so we wish him well if he's watching us on TV. So the next item is citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens to be heard? Would you come forward to the microphone and tell us your name?
Sure. My name is David Smith. Appreciate the opportunity to address you all this morning. I'm a 55-year resident of the Northeast Oklahoma City medical community neighborhood. I've been riding the bus off and on for a great many years. Normally I vacation in Brazil and lounge in the sunlight with my Brazilian-American grandkids, but this year the motor on my Mercedes-Benz seized up, so I figured, heck, I'll just ride the bus for a while. So after riding the bus for a while, I see that we still have a few opportunities, golden opportunities, if you will, to improve our systems. God willing, I think maybe we can model some of the profitable transportation systems that I've seen, and I'm sure you all have seen all around the world. Third world country, Sao Paulo, Brazil, full occupancy. Perhaps there are ways we can improve the ridership, make the bus system profitable. So if you'll just give me a moment, please. I have this that I'd like to say, Central Oklahoma Transit and Parking Authority Board Trustees, BARC Director, residents of Oklahoma City, excuse me, and fellow citizens, our beloved city of Oklahoma City has now purposefully aligned herself in a unique position for a bright, prosperous, and harmonious future. We shall emerge over the next several years as one of the shining stars in this world-class new inner-city revitalization. As good public servants, our politicians, employees, businesses, corporations, foundations, as well as concerned citizenry are all loyal and dedicated to this task. That is precisely by definition how we have arrived here today. We have dedicated our efforts, our time, and our intellect toward the attainment of this objective. A world-class Oklahoma City can be attained only if we all work purposefully together, omitting none of the ingredients contained within the recipe for perfection. And as I perceive it, we're on the precipice of a genuine transformation in our city. $750 million dedicated toward the task of revitalizing Oklahoma City. And there's, in my mind's eye, no measure of this commitment that could be diminished in any way other than a world-class dedication toward that objective. And it seems to me, and I think you guys are way ahead of me. In fact, I've heard rumors that there's a number of innovations, and I commend you for that. They're on task and scheduled already. And I would encourage simplicity, unified scheduling, perhaps even where if I wake up and I don't know if it's Monday through Friday or I don't know if it's Saturday, that I could dedicate and be determined that I would catch a bus in a timely and efficient manner. And I guess that's the whole purpose of and so my recommendation is, of course, that God willing, we can all get an opportunity to ride the bus ourselves. I know y'all are extraordinarily intelligent erudites. I mean, very well educated, and I have no doubt whatsoever that almost immediately you will see some of the solutions. And I can assure you from personal and from personal experience that your safety will be assured. There's 3 different monitors on each bus. These buses are safe. The people that ride them are good people. They're Oklahoma people. At the state capitol of Oklahoma, there's a flag of a girl who was a young artist in Shawnee, and she chose a sky blue background to symbolize loyalty and dedication. And those are the kind of people these Okies are. They're good people. So I would encourage you all, please do as I did. Just take an opportunity, get a bus pass. You know, we could all walk across the street and we could put our credit cards in the parking meter over there, and we could rent a parking meter. But we can't walk down to the bus station and purchase a bus pass with that same credit card, because they do not accept credit cards down there. That's not fair. there are some inequities, there are some opportunities, so let's work toward those. Thank you very much for your dedication.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. We appreciate your comments, and if there are some profitable transit systems, we'd like to know who they are. We know that there are successful ones, and we try and emulate them. I don't know of any profitable ones, but if there are, let us know where they are. Okay. Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it. And with regard to the credit card at the transit center, I understand that that is in the works. As we do make improvements, we do have we're getting the systems aligned in order to be able to have that service here in the near future. And with other actions we're going to take today, I think we see the improvement of the system with our night service on two bus routes in the city is incrementally improving the system. So we are striving to do that with our limited resources. Thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes. We had minutes from the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority Joint Finance and Transportation Committee meetings on December 4th. Are there any corrections or? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, and consideration of the approval of the minutes of the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority meeting on December 5th, 2014. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, consent docket. Are there any items of the consent docket that we would like to pull for individual consideration? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent docket?
Move approval.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, items for individual consideration. First one is consideration of approval of the bus system changes to implement the pilot program for evening service and adjust schedules for improved schedule adherence. Mr. Chairman, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The item that you have before you will allow changes to the bus system that will provide for the full implementation of bus system enhancements that were approved by the board on July 11th of 2014. As you'll recall, those enhancements were essentially a pilot program for night service from 7 p.m. to midnight on both routes 23 and routes 11. And you have a map there in your packet, and we're working on getting that map up here on the screen. But essentially, one of the goals for the evening service was to make sure we had a connection between the two routes, 23 and 11, on both ends, both the west side and the east side. And so one of the changes that is included in this item is introducing a Route 23N, which will replace the regular Route 23 between the hours of 7 and midnight. And so rather than serving the state capital area in the evening hours, Route 23 will now serve Automobile Alley and the Transit Center and provide that connection to Route 11. The second service change has to do with our link service. This is our point-deviated limited bus service that we currently run until midnight. It's a very limited area, very few scheduled stops. Most of it is a reservation-based type system. But one of the goals of implementing this evening service was also to try to integrate that link with these later routes. And so we've moved forward with also looking at the link system in its entirety, adding roughly 7 scheduled stops to the link service. So what that means is our customers now have almost twice as many regular stops that Link will provide, which means they can ride at those regular scheduled stops at the same price as a regular bus fare versus the more expensive reservation-based type stop. And then of those 7 additional stops, we have 3 link stops along Route 23, and we have 2 link stops around along Route 11. And you can see those on your map. For example, if you'll look at the red line, Route 23 in there, if you'll look at the intersection of 23rd and Meridian, you'll see that little symbol, the little chain link type symbol. You'll see several of those on the map. So we're really looking forward to not only introducing this evening service, having connections on both ends, but also integrating it with Link. And I think this will also help us in terms of improving the passenger counts on the Link service. You know, as we've been looking at our transit system report over the last several months, we've noticed that's one area where we definitely have some work to do in trying to get that ridership back up. The other changes are relatively minor in nature, in that there are several routes where we're adjusting time points, or the time that the bus will arrive at certain stops. And again, the reason for that is for improved schedule adherence. So now that we've been running these newer routes for 8 months, we have, data that we can look at and just kind of adjust some of those time points so that, again, we can continue to improve our on-time performance. So, all of these changes are consistent with what was approved back in July, and we're certainly thankful of the support of the trustees to implement this pilot program, as well as the funding from the City Council. Looking forward to implementing it.
Okay. Are there any questions on this item A?
So when will this be effective?
January 25th. The Link service, I believe, will actually go into effect on the 24th.
Okay.
And do we have a kind of a beginning and end time on that as a pilot program, or is it to roll that out and evaluate as we go to decide if we continue the service?
Yeah, our expectation is we'll roll this out and just evaluate it as we go, with the hopes of garnering enough ridership on the evening service to hopefully, depending on resources, expand to other routes.
So is there a motion to approve the system change?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Item B is consideration of approval of amendment number 1 to the contract with Safety and Security Services Incorporated to provide security guard services at the transit center.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Real quickly, with this item here, this will allow us to have a security presence at the transit center during the hours that we'll be providing this evening service. Again, consistent with our mission statement, one of the things that we strive to do is provide safe, reliable, efficient transportation services. And so having additional security there during those hours, we feel is important to the overall success of the evening service. One thing that's a little bit different about the security that we'll have in the evening, because the transit center will be closed to the public, the actual building itself, because we only have 2 routes serving the facility, these security guards in the evening will be in a vehicle provided by the security company. So that will serve as kind of, a way for them to get out of the elements, also kind of serve as a mobile office, so to speak, particularly while the buses are not there for the lineup.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the contract? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Consideration of approval of the easements between Cotpa and TNT Operating Company. Jason.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, this item is an easement, again, with TNT Operating Company. They actually own an oil well on the rail right-of-way that Cotpa owns up near Martin Luther King and 10th Street. And you have a picture of the area on your screen in front of you there. But essentially what this easement does, it does a few things. It allows approximately a 500-foot by 10-foot easement for TNT Operating Company to construct a pipeline to connect their oil well to another existing pipeline in that near vicinity. The easement for the pipeline is on the very far west section of the rail right-of-way. It's represented by that blue line on the screen. And it's about as far off the rail right-of-way as essentially you can get it. It's right on the edge. The other thing this easement does for us is, in some time ago, and we're not sure when, but there have been 4 anchors installed in this rail right-of-way in the ground that are used to secure basically a workover rig when the well has to be serviced. This easement has allowed us to be able to document the exact location of those anchors and also provide provisions. We now have an agreement that says if those anchors ever need to be moved so we can use that corridor for transit purposes, we have the opportunity. We formalize that agreement. And then lastly, this easement, represented by the orange line on your screen, it allows occasional or temporary access for trucks to come in off of Martin Luther King there to service the well. And then the last thing this easement will do is the TNT Operating Company is wanting to remove the tank batteries that are right there with the well. And the agreement stipulates that when those tank batteries are removed, and keep in mind this well is from about the 1960s, it's been there a while, any contaminated soil will need to be removed by the operator. So that's essentially what this easement will provide.
Are those anchors the 4 green dots?
Yes, and obviously none of this that you see on the screen is to scale or the exact location, just to plotted them on there to give you a sense of what we're talking about.
Sure.
And they're removing what's indicated by the blue line.
No, that's the easement.
Oh, that's the
I really like the idea that they're responsible for cleaning up the soil contamination. That's a really good provision.
Yep.
Okay. Well, is there a motion to approve the easement? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Item number 4 is to enter into executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations for the fiscal year 2014 and 15. Is there a motion to move this to the heel of the docket? Since it's been moved and seconded, it has to be an individual vote, so we'll start with Steve. Aye. Okay. It passes, and we will enter into executive session at the heel of the docket. So moving on into ratification of claims and payroll.
Move approval.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Same sign. Okay. The financial reports. We have a budget to actual for the 5 months ending November 30th. Jason?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Looking first at the financial report for the Transportation Division on page 2 of your financial reports, you'll notice looking at total operating revenues, we continue to be in good shape through the first 5 months of the year, just slightly over budget on our revenues at 100.7% of budget. Most of that, of course, is a result of our revenue from passenger fares coming in at about $39,000 or 3.4% over what we had targeted. It's not surprising considering our ridership. We've seen an increase in our ridership. Certainly not a one-for-one correlation there, but we would anticipate with more riders we're going to see more revenue. Our other grants revenue, you'll notice, is about $7,000 under budget. That's simply a result of less money coming in from the area-wide aging agency than what we had projected in our budget. And then the other revenue category is about $16,800 over budget. This is where we budget revenue from our agreement with Midwest City, our agreement for Route 15, our agreement with Oklahoma County for Route 19, and our advertising revenue. And advertising revenue, I believe, is the primary driver of some of that being over target. On the operating expenditures, we continue to also be in good shape, very similar overall to where we were last month. We're at about 91% of our overall expenditure budget. Most of that savings is coming from personal services. You can see that we're at, again, about 91% of what we would expect to be at typically at this point of the year. Most of that is being driven by vacancies. Unfortunately, we have some vacancies in our maintenance area with mechanics and some of our service lane techs that we definitely need to get filled, are working to get filled. We also have a couple of positions in our administrative division that we need to fill. But again, as the evening service comes online and we begin seeing the expenses for those additional operators, that number should begin to shrink as we get further along in the year. Other services and charges continue to be under budget. This is where we pay most of our contracts, our various chargebacks for IT services, administrative support, and so forth. I believe that's about all the comments I had on the transportation division. Looking at the parking division, a little bit different story on the revenues on the parking division. We are under budget. You can see overall by about $338,000. Most all of that is a result of our parking revenue coming in under budget due to the Arts District Garage opening later than what we had anticipated when we put our budget together. Looking at the operating expenditures, and then same token, our expenditures are under budget, particularly in our 52 account class, our other services and fees accounts. We have about $362,000 of savings there compared to where we would expect to be. So those numbers really kind of offset, and you can look down at our net operating income there of $43,105. We're to the positive, even though we have less revenue coming in than what we had anticipated. And then the last thing I would point out, just as a clarification, if you look down on the payments and transfers section of the financial report, that operating reserve where you see a negative $500,000, that's actually a transfer to our capital projects on the parking side. All of those capital projects have been approved by the trust, and we'll work on the labeling on that on the financial reports moving forward, just to make it a little bit more clear that that's a transfer for capital projects. And then lastly, talking a little bit about river operations, again, not a lot of change from what we looked at last month, particularly since service is now basically suspended for the season. We are under budget on our revenues by about $23,000. Most of that is coming from our general revenue or our normal ferry revenue that we project. That is a result of, at least in part, to canceling service a little bit earlier than what we'd anticipated in our original budget. Looking at our operating expenditures, we're about $13,000 over budget. And again, as I've stated before, that's a result of additional expenditures for advertising. Be glad to answer any questions on the financial reports.
Okay. If there aren't any questions, is there a motion to receive the financial report?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, moving into program reports. The first one is the Transit System Program Report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Just had a couple of things to highlight on the Transit System Report. Wanted to talk really just about our fixed route ridership, continuing to look at that and see how ridership has performed since we've implemented our service changes, and then also spend a little bit of time starting to look at our on-time performance. So again, October, or I should say this data is through November, was a strong month for us. I believe our average daily ridership on our Monday through Friday fixed route service was 10,789 passenger trips per day. That's about an 8.2% increase over November of the previous year. So as you can see on the chart in front of you here, we continue to have that positive trend of, since the service enhancements have been implemented, continuing to outpace the prior year in terms of average daily ridership. So I think it's a very good story for us here. And I'm just now noticing it looks like maybe the November data did not come through. We may have the wrong month pulled up, actually. That might be last month's. Nope. Okay. Looking at the system-wide on-time performance, wanted to point you to the last page of your transit system report, and one of the performance measures that we track, and we talked a little bit about this last month, it's the third one in the table there in the transit system report, last page, the percent of on-time bus arrivals. You'll notice that through November, we're averaging about 63.63% on-time arrivals. And again, just as a reminder, we've really kind of changed the way that we are measuring this. This actually accounts for every single stop in our system, and a route is considered to be on time if it's within, it can't be any more than 1 minute early or any more than 5 minutes late. Otherwise, we consider it not to be on time. It's not arriving at the scheduled stop at the correct time. And so through the, again, like I said, through the first 5 months of the year, we're at 63.63%. But what I wanted to show on this graph here is just kind of the recent trend. Since we've really started monitoring this, you can see that, in July and August, when we just barely, started kind of keeping score and gathering this data, we were below 61%. And we've incrementally been able to improve that number to where in December we finished at about 71% in terms of our on-time performance. So this is a graph that I'll continue to bring back and share just so that we can look at how we're changing month to month, but I think we're headed in the positive direction.
Jason, I have a question about that. The route changes that we approved today, will those help enhance our on-time performance?
Yes, absolutely. That's part of the reason for adjusting those time points, is to help with that schedule adherence and improve our on-time performance.
Yeah, some of that being off is just we didn't set the right times at the beginning that we needed to have, and we've now recognized that, and so we're adjusting it. And so we'll see some improvement based on that, I'm sure.
Right.
That's great.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions on the transit report? If not, we'll move on into the long-range plan. Larry?
Good morning. Really just one comment today. Last month, Cotpa succeeded in getting Oklahoma City selected as one of 5 American cities to be part of a pilot planning project. And it's a pilot planning approach wherein healthy community principles are used in the planning of a transportation corridor. In our case, the transportation corridor was one identified in Cotpa's 2006 fixed guideway plan, and that was that Northwest Rapid Transit Corridor, the one that starts downtown, goes out Classen, and then out the Northwest Expressway. It's pretty tough competition, but Federal Transit and Federal Highway were impressed with this as a corridor, and it is one of those corridors where we've really kind of needed to be able to start some type of planning activity. It lends itself well to a health and planning approach, and it's got 3 hospitals, several pharmacies. It's kind of it's a 6-lane corridor, so it's kind of difficult to cross for pedestrians and cyclists, and so that sort of thing can try to be addressed from a public health standpoint. So it's a kind of a big next step, a lot of work to be done.
Great. Any questions for Larry? If not, thank you. Parking system.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you can see in your report last month, or for this month, we've added the spaces from the Arts District, which did decrease our occupancy somewhat. Actually, we've already put more people in, so it will be going back up, but I don't foresee it going up to the 120% that we were previously. Everything's been just about the same as far as on the occupancy. Just kind of update you on some other projects. The parking study with Kimley Horn, we're wrapping that up now. They should be getting us a draft here in the next couple weeks, and then we'll be reviewing that. And once we have a finished product on that, we'll be bringing that to you as well to review. Some construction projects. The Sheridan Walker is almost finished. They're working on the ramps now, the entrance and exits. And actually this week they're working on the Sheridan side, and then they'll be switching over to the Walker side. They're putting in, if you remember, they're putting in the waterproofing, so they're having to strip those levels down and then reinstall that as well. On the Arts District Garage, we're wrapping that up with the final punch list. We've been working with the city and other inspectors. We've got a few things left on that, so I see probably we will have a final change order next month, and hopefully the acceptance on that garage. The Century Center, the steel beam project has started, and we're hoping, kind of moving that contractor along so that we're not interfering with the other contractor schedules. So hopefully that one we're anticipating being finished by the end of the month. And then on the rental side, just to let you know, I failed to mention this last month, we have potential tenants for 100% of the space next door at the Arts District Garage. So we're negotiating with those right now with the design. So next month I should have the bid dockets. We've divided it into 2 different projects. And then so I'll be bringing that to you as well to approve those, and so we can get those out to bid.
Is that the construction?
The build-outs for the tenant space.
We have the design of the space.
We're working on those right now, yeah. Yeah, we're working with the tenants in getting their specifications and also TAP to get that for the build-outs.
What's the status on the garage, on the Arts District Garage, as far as getting new tenants in, new participants in the
Right now, we have 457 monthly parkers. I've got approximately 200 we're still waiting on to get in there that we've already, has been kind of spoken for. We have a waiting list of about 300. My thoughts were I'm kind of waiting on Century Center and, getting Century Center in because of the new tenant there. So I wanted to kind of watch that and see where we were before we, look at the waiting list on the Arts District.
Any other questions?
Any other questions
Debbie?
with that?
If not,
I'm sorry, Debbie, could you clarify, typically we don't normally have waiting lists, but for the Arts District Garage, we do have a list that we're working from?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we have, in the past, we've had waiting lists for like Santa Fe, and because of our 22% occupancy. But when we opened up the new garage, we were getting people that are in other garages that were interested, and so we started a waiting list, just so that we could cover who we had obligated for, the tenants.
the parking study you mentioned, could you refresh my memory as to what?
Parking study
is that
was the
south?
Court Shore
Yes.
and the Convention Center and Hotel.
Okay.
And Jason and I both visited with the Kimley Horn this week as far as maybe possibly intensifying, I guess, their scope to target more towards the Convention Center and the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of know what's expected or what will be needed in that area.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes.
Moving on to the Marketing, Customer Relations, and Technology report.
Good morning. Well, as you already approved, we've got several route changes that we have been working on materials to make sure that our patrons know about, as well as the news outlets. So we've developed quite a few materials, and that's pretty much what we've been working on, making sure all of those are ready. So all of that will actually go out today, now that we have the approval on the services. my mind went totally blank, and so I was trying to make sure I forgot what it was. But it hadn't come to me. So if there's something
Some
really
of us are
important.
very happy, Mike.
Yeah.
Someone who's much younger than we are.
It just went
It's
completely
okay.
out there.
It's okay.
So those are basically what we have been working on, and you'll start seeing those materials as well if you watch our social media or anything. Remember now, if you're in the area of Belle Isle and the Penn Square Mall area, our Route 5 stop has our new first bus shelter. If you haven't already seen pictures of that or haven't been by there, but the new bus shelter is up there, and encourage you to take a look at it. It's very nice looking. And
Is it by the Cheesecake Factory?
no, this is on the other side, on Western.
Okay,
And it's on what we would call the inbound direction.
okay,
So it'd be on the west side, I believe, of the road.
okay.
All right, thanks.
I believe we do have one planned to go by the Cheesecake
Well, I
Factory.
knew that was in there, I just...
Yeah, yeah. And we're also working on putting together some type of ribbon-cutting ceremony or some other type of publicity effort to announce, we have the new bus shelters out. And the Belle Isle will most likely be the one that we feature. So we're working on putting that together.
Okay, excellent. Oklahoma River, Jeannie.
Tall people, yeah. Good morning. The 2014 season for Oklahoma River Cruises finished with an average of 10.3 riders per service hour, which is just 0.3 riders above our target. 10 riders per service hour covers costs of crew and fuel, so we strive to reach that goal. This was probably the result of some of the ferry schedule changes that we made to address the needs of those who wanted to use the service and to maximize the number of riders that were using the service. Ferry service was suspended in December. In December, we typically are fortunate if we get 3 riders per service hour, and that was one reason, the extremely low ridership, most likely due to the cold weather. It is also difficult on the lock systems to operate in very cold weather and could potentially be detrimental to their function. We are working on plans for 2015. They are 99% finalized. The focus is on efficiencies to maximize ridership and hopefully grow some revenue. And I know this is a river report, but I would like to speak a little bit about Spokies this morning. I'd like you to introduce you to Brent Tongo. Brent Tongo is the general manager for Spokies. He's with Bicycle Transit Systems. Brent was previously with, let's see if I find it here, a business development manager for B-Cycle, which is a very large equipment provider. And he was marketing communications director for Bike New York, the bike education and safety nonprofit for the New York City bike share system. He started out in Denver, working for City and County of Denver's marketing office. He was the interim marketing and communications director during the formation and first 2 years of Denver bike sharing. Brent's not new to Oklahoma. He was born and raised in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and attended Loyola University in Chicago. Also with us today is Chris Cassard. Chris is the CFO of Bicycle Transit Systems. He was formerly with Alta Bicycle Transit, which is a very large operator of bike transit systems. He worked with City Bike in New York City, Capital Bike Share in Washington, D.C., the Hubway Bike Share in Boston, and Bike Chattanooga. So we're very fortunate to have a lot of experience in bike share come to Oklahoma City to help us grow our system. These gentlemen are currently working on a full system assessment of what we have here in Oklahoma City and where we can go with it, and they will be preparing a report for staff at the end of this month. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
When will the river cruise service begin again?
We will start up again in April. We still provide charters, though they're pretty lean this time of year, but we do provide charters year-round. But the actual ferry system will start up again the first Wednesday in April.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to receive our program reports? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. Items from the trustees. Steve? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Kevin Mulcahy as our new Assistant Director. He comes to us with over 25 years of experience in operations and maintenance of transit, school buses, trucking. He has a very, very diverse background in transportation and maintenance. So we're very glad to have him, welcome him aboard as part of the team. He's actually worked a little bit with Oklahoma City in the past, working with our utilities department in their solid waste division when he was in the private sector, so definitely no stranger to Oklahoma. We're glad to have him.
Yes, I would echo that, and also invite you up to say a few words if you'd like.
Thanks, I would like to.
Kevin.
Thank you very much for including me in Cotpa. This is, I think, without argument, the most progressive transit system in the United States. From bicycles to boats to streetcars, along with traditional services, I mean, please. The inclusion recently of the technology of AVL and all the things that transit systems have. I've been here for 4 days, at least in this capacity, and I'm deeply excited by it. Now, I watched you guys in preparation for this position in 4 or 5 or 6 of these videotape sessions, and I've yet to see more cooperative, productive attitude towards, or not attitude, but cooperation between the board and the operation. And just an example of progressiveness is Citizen Smith here, who came up with a concern, and it's not my surprise that Cotpa has the answer to that they've already been working on it, and it will be addressed. So I appreciate you bringing it up, but it's no surprise to the board or to Jason that they've already contemplated and are working on the fix for it. So thank you very much for bringing me here, and I'm just delighted to work with you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Jason, you have anything else?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Marcia, anything from you? Okay. Well, we will go ahead and move into executive session at this time. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next month.